Shadow the Hedgehog. Wow, okay, can I just say, if there's one character in the Sonic franchise that had what it took to be just as iconic in terms of design, concept, and overall potential, it was Shadow the Hedgehog. Sure, he came bouncing into the scene in Sonic Adventure 2 as another something the Hedgehog, but Shadow was originally different. We knew there was something different about him. It drew us towards him, something which separated him from the original Sonic, but also gave him the characteristics and traits that put him above Sonic in certain places. Think about it, Sonic is all about the blue, but it's like the complete same and complete opposite at the same time. It's weird. But Shadow is the type of character who had potential to lead the Sonic franchise if he was given the right backing and the right story. And with all that potential bubbling back in the day, with a design you look at and go, wow, you're as cool if not cooler than Sonic. With that impact and impressive arrival, we have to ask ourselves the most important question. What the hell happened?
How did Shadow the Hedgehog become a disgrace
to the Sonic franchise? How did this promising Hedgehog alternative start off with the eye of the tiger and ended up with no eyes at all? Wait, does that even make sense? Anyway, you're about to find out. Shadow was created to be the ultimate life form by Gerald, using the DNA of Black Doom in Project Shadow. His purpose was to provide ways to develop a cure for the incurable deadly illness, more specifically for Gerald's granddaughter Maria Robotnik. But Shadow was deemed as a threat to humanity and put into stasis by the military. But after being released by Dr. Eggman, Shadow's goals changed. He became vengeful, but soon regained his memories and ended up protecting humanity. But why do fans love Shadow so much? Well, he's got the cool dude image. He's the cool kid in school. But if we're talking about Sonic Adventure 2 Shadow, he was the cool kid who wasn't actually an asshole. Doesn't look to be alpha, but instead he does good things and keeps himself to himself. He's sharp, he has purpose, he matches Sonic in speed and skill, and can use Chaos Control and harness the Chaos Emerald's power for some cool stuff. And those goddamn air shoes, the best footwear in Mobius. I actually prefer the concept of Shadow than Sonic, even though Sonic is always the poster boy of the franchise. But look at it like this, how often do you see a character to be a match for Sonic and stay on top of the mountain for as long as Shadow did? Shadow at one point had been so close to Sonic in terms of popularity, perhaps even surpassing it, that they could both be considered the yin and yang of the franchise. Heck, even being able to turn super, he was an alternative Sonic for fans to love. But of course, as time went on, the suffocation of oversaturated characters in the franchise and bad decisions in game making would make even the likes of Shadow fall from the spotlight. And in the end, Sonic would continue to be on the top of the mountain alone. I just want to quickly shout out to Rouge the Bat for adding another element to Shadow's character, which wasn't too bad and kept things interesting on the side. So what the hell happened? Let's begin with the obvious. The Shadow the Hedgehog video game. This game, if you want to call it that, was like injecting rat poison into Master Splinter for the character Shadow. It single-handedly stopped all of Shadow's momentum, and similar to Knuckles' Chaotix, made Shadow, just like Knuckles, look like they didn't have what it took to be a lead role of the series. Or maybe he did have the aura, but this game in 2005 destroyed that aura. The fact that Shadow has a gun and a bike must tell you we're dealing with a game that makes as much sense as pulling out your tooth because you didn't like the gap between it and the other one. Poor controls, poor level design that doesn't allow Shadow to use speed properly, the gunplay is pointless, poor missions, poor stages, and the story, completely ruined Shadow's character. Okay, so some may like it, but that's up to you, but you can't deny this is the game that single-handedly ruined Shadow's character and reputation beyond repair, and ever since then it got worse. Ever since then he became Knuckles the Echidna, minus the fan service he gets and a variety of fan stories to make him look like Sonic's equal. But to Sega and the Sonic team, you're the flavor of the month, Shadow. Shadow's personality took a step back then. He was just acting the asshole because he's the cool, dark, edgy Sonic, oh yeah. But when we look back at Sonic Adventure 2, he had story, he answered his demons and overcame everything which led to his sacrifice for humanity. The fact that later games turned him into a cliche Sonic rival who's the edgy Vegeta copycat was totally cringe. It's like he lost all of his growth and originality. He already put his past behind him in Sonic Adventure 2, but after that game, they reversed that decision. The Shadow the Hedgehog game had no emotion, where in Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow opened up, he even cried, and it made us feel emotionally attached to him. Now here we go, Sonic 06, big controversial statement coming up. The game sucked, yes, but the story of Shadow's character was actually good. In the fact they acknowledged his past, and knew that he was still seen as a threat, despite his sacrifices, but he wasn't selfish about it. His goal was to destroy the bigger threat, Mephiles, to protect the world, knowing that in the end, Shadow's future still holds the darkness for how he is seen by the others. I think it showed growth in Shadow's character, overcoming his insecurities and doing what is right. It gave off this Batman vibe of protecting Gotham, and I think that was fitting. But in all other games around this time and after it, Shadow's personality just started becoming an asshole. And I'll keep saying this, Vegeta. Shadow the Hedgehog is a goddamn hedgehog prince. One of the biggest problems comes from the writing of Sonic Team. They completely ruin characters, and it's almost like each character becomes a parody of itself, to the point you look at each one as a stereotypical joke in the Sonic world, rather than take them serious for the reasons why they were introduced in the first place, like Knuckles, like Shadow. The fact that Shadow has now been pushed into the copycat Vegeta role is facepalm worthy to say the very least. I don't want Shadow to be like Vegeta, I want Shadow to be like Shadow the Hedgehog. The whole Vegeta thing, being the grumpy friend to the main character, is played out to death. And I think what a lot of us are looking for in this day and age is originality. And when Shadow was introduced for the first time, we had that. But the writers found a way to turn Shadow into another parody character. Think of it like this. Shadow's character in Sonic Adventure 2 was very interesting. He wasn't angry and violent for no reason. He was very misguided, and a lot of circumstances, such as those with Maria, led him to changing. And more importantly, the story didn't shove it down our throat either, like, I'm Shadow, I'm dark, I'm edgy, not like Sasuke. No, that came much later in the Sonic games, to the point where we're like, we get it, Sonic Team, you want Shadow to be dark. Oh, I'm trembling with fear. Sometimes the more subtle things are in storytelling, they have the most effect. And I feel the Shadow we got in Sonic Adventure 2 was the best version of Shadow the Hedgehog, and totally different from any other that we've seen since. It's like now, Shadow is written to be in the more violent Hedgehog, doing actions in a darker way. Yes, we get it, you want him to be Vegeta. Look, Shadow was never meant to be that in the first place. The whole point the story worked in Sonic Adventure 2 was because it made even us appear that Shadow was a dark, heartless being, but as the story progressed, we found out that was not true. But now, like I said, the Vegeta card is played out and he just does things in a more violent way because, hey, that's his character. No, it's not. And it never should have been. But what's really cringeworthy is how Shadow is pushed to be this rival of Sonic the Hedgehog in marketing and media constantly, to the point where it's annoyingly familiar to Goku and Vegeta. Shadow has no reason to keep competing with Sonic. The two characters have separate visions, separate motives, and separate lives, but the marketing tool to have them rival each other is just a way to appeal to the kids, so when the kids go out to play, one can say, I want to be Sonic, and the other one can say, I want to be Shadow then. Okay, I get that, but for the fans who have been with the franchise for years, have grown up alongside it, show us some respect as well, and stop treating such incredible characters with cheap scripts and cheap writing, characters who have so much potential to be explored. Shadow the Hedgehog, at least when I see him in the latest Sonic games, just seems obsessed with Sonic, and it doesn't suit his original Sonic Adventure 2 self at all. Shadow's death was one of the most emotional moments in the Sonic the Hedgehog history, and the death worked in storytelling to form an attachment with the character, because he died for the people of Earth after remembering Maria. It's like a full circle story for a new incredible character, and it was done right. I mean, like I said, the guy even cried. He was brought into this world to be a hero, but the story made it difficult for him and it changed him, showing the potential of awesome character growth and overcoming the obstacles in his way. And this death was meaningful as it connected with the people of Earth. The fact that Shadow is brought back after this death kind of killed off that prestige of the newly introduced character and his sacrifice. Yes, it's cool to have Shadow around for a lot more content because he's loved by so many, but do you ever stop and wonder why he was loved in the first place? It's not because of the abomination that is the Shadow the Hedgehog video game, it's not because of the over-the-top rivalry with Sonic, it's not because of all the fan-made stuff with Shadow in, such as Super Smash Bros. Z, it's because of who he was in the beginning, his story in Sonic Adventure 2, all of the way to his death. That was the Shadow we loved, and yes, the fact we wanted more of that character is flattering to the character. But that doesn't mean the Sonic team has to give in and give us what we want. Sometimes the greatest stories and characters in history become the legends they are because they had an end. They didn't keep coming back to get watered down and lost in the shuffle like a ton of Dragon Ball characters. Shadow coming back was fan service, but it was the type of service that would slowly eat away at Shadow until he's no longer relevant. If Shadow just died there and then in Sonic Adventure 2, I guarantee, even to this very day, we would all be looking back at Shadow the Hedgehog as possibly the greatest original character in Sonic the Hedgehog history that wasn't Sonic, and albeit had similar traits, paved his own way, and was his own unique self with his own goals. I honestly could say if Shadow's death was the finale for him, he would have been the greatest legend in Sonic history. But thanks to the team bringing him back, he just became a fading candle, who gradually lost its brightness and heat as time went on. And the forgotten flame feels like it's just about to give out. Shadow went from an original unique character to just Sonic with a palette swap and being written to be a Saiyan prince, losing all of his relevance. Because Shadow the Hedgehog is a goddamn hedgehog prince. Sega had something truly special with Shadow the Hedgehog in the beginning, but they made him into a parody just like they did with Knuckles and ruined it. Goodbye Shadow the Hedgehog. After you died in Sonic Adventure 2, your true self never came back.